If you're a Fuji shooter like me and have been shooting with the 18 to 55 kit lens, as they call it, which really I don't consider it a kit lens so much compared to other brands out there. I mean, this lens is really a fantastic lens and high quality. But with that being said, I did switch to the 16 to 55 for three specific reasons. One in particular kind of weighed out more than the others, but if you've been on the fence, here's my three reasons that I switched. You may think they suck, but this is why I switched. All right, let's start with my least important reason, and the first one is the fact that you do get that 16 to 55 as opposed to 18 to 55. Now, it doesn't seem like a lot, and in a lot of situations, it's not a lot. It really is for those scenarios where you just need that little bit of extra. You don't have to do a panorama because you've got just that little bit of extra on the wide side. And when you do, multiply it times 1.5, the crop factor, it is 3 millimeters and not just 2, but it does come in handy that you've got just a little bit more on the wide side. Now, number 2 on the list is the fact that you do have that 2.8 aperture and just more flexibility when it comes to low light. I do have to hand it to Fuji though, with the 18 to 55, it's so nice that they made it 2.8 to 4, as where a lot of other manufacturers, with their entry-level lenses, you've got more like 3 something to 5.6. So again, I think that reflects on where Fuji has just got it right, that the lens that they're offering up as entry level is not really entry level. It's a killer lens. It's just in this case with the 16 to 55, you've got just that extra flexibility when you are, framing up your composition. You're not having to worry about a fluctuating aperture, if I could say the word correctly. And what's nice is you just don't have to have that in the back of your mind when you're trying to find your composition. And you've got just more opportunity when it comes to a low light situation. Future Jade here. I almost forgot to talk about the bokeh difference in these two lenses. So I've taken some sample photos here so that you could get a sense of what the bokeh difference would be. I'm a huge fan of the bokeh-liciousness, so the 16 to 55 is definitely, going to give you that more creamy bokeh at the 55 full focal length. But while I was taking these sample photos, I realized that it would be a good opportunity to reflect the sharpness difference. And I'm not a big person on when it comes to pixel peeping, and also I've been really satisfied with the quality of the 18 to 55 and its sharpness. But as you can see here, there is a bit of a difference when it comes to the 1655 being sharper than the 18 to 55. Moving on to the last reason, which I never thought would weigh so heavy on buying a lens, but this was the biggest reason I bought the lens. And it was for the weather resistance. Now, I've got more Fuji lenses than I ever would have thought that I would have gotten. I'm broke. Fuji becomes very addictive. And the only other weather resistant lens that I have is the 90 millimeter. And I've been doing a lot of street photography, and 90 millimeters, I tried, I was gonna do a vlog on it, and it just was not working out. Like 90 millimeters is really tough for me when it comes to street photography. And so then I switched to the 18 to 55 for most everything I would be doing. What it came down to is that when you're working full time and you've only got so many opportunities to go out and shoot, you're really trying to make the most of it. And I was down at a place that they call Tempe Town Lake here in Arizona, which is phenomenal. And in Arizona, we get a lot of random storms, especially come the summertime. And I was down at Tempe Town. I was kind of a ways away from my car, and heavy clouds were coming in. And what hit me is kind of a little bit of frustration that here I've, spent all this time to come and get a really cool photo, especially with the best weather that I love, which is dramatic weather and dramatic clouds. And I'm now nervous about my gear. And I know that you can, buy like a $2 plastic cover, solution that you could just put over the top of the lens. But when it comes to photography for me, you're trying to do so many things between figuring out your composition, getting your settings dialed in, and just there's so many things going on that the last thing you want to be really concerned about is whether you're going to cause any weather damage to your equipment. So that particular day, it just clicked in my head. I'm like, I got to get the 16-55 for a reason that I never would have thought would push me over the edge of spending the money on the lens, in that I don't want to have to worry about weather, because dramatic weather and storms is some of my favorite times to go shoot. And I know that you can get other primes that aren't 90 millimeters that are also weather resistant in the Fuji lineup. But there's just so much flexibility in the 16-55. And I found that the 18-55 I'd be using all the time compared to the primes because of that flexibility in my street photography. Ultimately, not wanting to worry about the weather when I'm out taking photos is what just pushed me over the edge to get the lens. And sure enough, the next time I went to shoot, I was back down at Tempe Town Lake and it started raining. And what was so nice was I just didn't have to think about it. I had a cover for my bag, so that was taken care of. And then, the camera system, I just wasn't worried about because it was all weather resistant sealed. But now that I've gone through all that, let me tell you about the two major downsides that you ultimately have with going with the 16-55 over the 18-55. Now, the first downside to the 16-55 is definitely the weight compared to the 18-55. The 18-55 is just so much lighter on the camera and as well in your bag. So if you're trying to pack light and that's one of your biggest goals, then hands down the 18-55 is going to be the way to go over the 16-55. The other biggest downside to the 16-55 is the fact that it doesn't have any kind of iOS, and the 18-55 does. So if you're a video shooter primarily, then I would for sure say the 18-55 is the better way to go for you. At least if you're shooting an XT3 and earlier. The XT4, you're not going to have to worry about as much because it does have the IBIS, but with the XT3, unfortunately, it doesn't have that. And so the 18-55 is definitely going to be the better lens for you, since at least you've got some sort of stabilization when you're shooting. But ultimately, that's the two real big downsides to the 16-55. If I've missed anything, or you got any questions, or you'd like to see me talk about other subjects when it comes to the Fuji system, please let me know down below. And other than that, thanks so much for watching. I'll leave links down below too. If you click on those, thanks so much. That really helps the channel. Also, if you give a thumbs up, I appreciate it. I will see you in the next one, and I hope you're well. Bye.